Well, I'm sitting here at the SHOT Show with Governor Mark Gordon, and Governor Gordon, you have been a big supporter of the Second Amendment, and obviously our presence at the SHOT Show. Did you know that we've actually been here over 30 years at the SHOT Show?
I didn't. I've been here at least 8 years, and I just am amazed that you've been here 30 years, and to be on this floor with so many gun lovers and people that just appreciate the Second Amendment. You should feel pretty proud of what the Business Council's been able to do in those 30 years.
Yeah, Governor, I was going to interview you, but I'll gladly answer that one. I think that one of the things is that Wyoming is definitely a pro-Second Amendment state. We also care a lot about business. And it turns out that all of these companies here, they love the Second Amendment, but they're also businesses.
Yeah.
And they care about being business friendly, and they care about us being, really pro-2A. And so I think in those ways, we've been able to make some differences here and lure a lot of companies into the state and also help a lot grow. We could kind of take a look down this row. There are a number of small entrepreneurial companies in Wyoming that are starting their businesses out, and I bet someday they're out in the show in a big way. What do you see as you walk this show and you talk with Wyoming companies? What strikes you about Wyoming companies versus others?
Well, what I'm most amazed at is just the things you're talking about. You have these little companies from companies that are putting together hunts on ranches, little software, 2 people starting them, to some of the defense tech stuff that somebody started working in his garage and kind of now has got a couple of contracts with police departments, and they've been able to grow to companies like Gunworks and Weatherby that are just huge names here, and they've come to Wyoming. And as you walk around the floor here, you have people go, "Oh, Wyoming, I love it. That's the place I love to go hunting. That's a 2A state. That's something we care about. I just love the place." And you realize it's great, but you also realize if you're going to kind of recruit businesses or help, these are homegrown businesses that are starting, and we're trying to help them get into the marketplace and other things. And you realize it's a very competitive place. I mean, this is probably, I don't know how many acres of floor space here, and I just was in a panel with probably 7 other governors. Every one of them saying, here's what we're doing to attract the businesses here. And you realize this is really, really competitive. We love Wyoming, and Wyoming has incredible strength. Our character, the ability to build things here is all great, but we should take nothing for granted.
Well, I think that's well said. And it turns out, as you mentioned, there are other states here recruiting. What I will say about Wyoming, and one of the things that I love, is that we don't put on airs. We don't, sort of like come in and just go to that panel. You're out walking the floor. You're really beating the streets for the companies that are here. You saw a bunch of Wyoming companies this morning to see what they're up to, what the new products that they're releasing are, and see how they're really making a difference. What's pretty interesting to me is how some companies that have come to Wyoming, they've expanded and grown already. And they, when they come, they say, "Oh gosh, I'm worried about workforce. Will there be enough people to actually make this happen?" And now we're talking to them a couple years later, and they're like, "Actually, we've grown more, and we've been able to hire more people." Tell us a little bit about some of those companies and the owners that you've talked to this morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, that has been one of the big things we've really tried to do, is make our training programs, our education programs, really from K-12 all the way through post-secondary, much more aligned with the businesses that are coming. So it's really heartening to talk to people who are saying, "I just really appreciate what you've been able to do with gunsmithing in Western Wyoming, or CNC operations up in Park County and others," and they're hungry for more folks. And that's been one of the big things for me. Wyoming has always been, how do we keep our kids here? And for me, it's been, how do we make sure our kids are engaged in the industries that are anxious to move here? So you look like, again, a company like Weatherby, a company like Keltec, a company like Wyoming Arms. They've all been able to really develop product, grow, expand, and then when you look at also the other things like high-vis, we visited them this morning, just to see the innovation that's coming out and the fact that this is just a really exciting place, fun place, and a great place to innovate and be able to expand. And my hope is we can keep this rolling, just because it's so critical that Wyoming stay diversified and that we are a culture of growth and expansion, not a culture of let's pull our horns in and go to bed.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned some of those manufacturers, because it turns out that not only are they working in the gun industry, but it's an easy pivot into other industries that we don't think about that all the time. But when you can machine guns, you can machine a lot of other things and do it really, really well. And it turns out they can serve those other industries in Wyoming. For example, the nuclear industry, there's a big opportunity for some of these gun manufacturers to move and do some milling in areas that maybe we didn't expect in a few years ago. And I think that's what's really interesting to me, is that when you start something out and you let it go, and you create a landscape where businesses can thrive, it turns out that those business people will find the next thing, they will work on it. And I think that innovative experience, and I think the spirit of Wyoming is wide open spaces. How do I take advantage of that next thing? Tell me a little bit about your vision for what Wyoming's future is, starting with education all the way through.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Josh. What a great lineup. No, I think what really inspires me, growing up here, we love the outdoors. We love the ability to get into the mountains, the ability to hunt, to fish. Those are fundamental things for Wyoming. I think they're fundamental things for just growing up and not glued to a computer screen. But then I think about what the opportunities are here, and the fact that Wyoming has, we have a preponderance of oil and gas, and that's great. You were talking about the translatable aspects of some of the machining. Well, it's kind of fun when the oil and gas market kind of dried up. You've got some of these folks that were saying, normally we've been doing bits and other things, but now we're going to start working on things that we really love to do on the weekends. So we're going to start making, parts for guns. We're going to start figuring out, then you start seeing companies like Magpul come in, and then the optics stuff. I mean, it's just fun to see from Lucid to Maven to Revit to others that are way out there in the front on optics. So when I think about what the future is, I've always said this is not about Gordon's vision for Wyoming. It's about how do we make sure that Wyoming is the place that people can build the businesses they want, take the opportunities to be able to expand the businesses they want, and kind of build their own future. Because ultimately, when you build it yourself, for yourself, that's where it's going to be most meaningful, and I think you can do that in Wyoming better than you can anywhere else.
Yeah, I see that. I see that with the businesses that we see growing out of the entrepreneurial space. We see that with businesses that come here and say, I didn't realize that I would get this level of workforce. I didn't realize that I would get a community that's so welcoming. I didn't realize that I would have all of this access to outdoors that I saw in pictures, but I didn't realize it was real. Yeah. We are real here. I don't know if you noticed or not, Governor, but it's a little after 3 here at the SHOT Show. And they get all excited about 308 because it's the 30 caliber size. However, I think they were cheering for 307. That's the way I look at it. And so as you look at the firearms industry in Wyoming, I guess, again, not just the future of Wyoming, but how do you see places like the SHOT Show playing a big role in that?
Well, what I see in the SHOT Show is an opportunity for some of the amazing innovations that Wyoming has been able to do. I mean, really long-range shooting started in Wyoming. We had the open spaces, we had the distances, and we had people that were meticulous and wanted to figure out how to make a gun that could shoot that accurately. That you could hit something, 8-inch pie plate at almost a mile, and how do we do that? And so what I see is it's an opportunity for us to showcase all these amazing technologies, and for the companies coming here, it's just a good competitive environment. You get to see what you're up against, and you can't get sort of fat and lazy. You have to keep going, and that's one of the things I love about Wyoming. If you've been in Wyoming very long, you realize that the workforce here does not stop at 5 o'clock. It stops when the job is done. And usually people are spending the night thinking about how they can do it better. So when we talk about the educational opportunities, I've always emphasized it's more than just training. It is about how do we make sure we have an ambitious workforce, one that's going to challenge the convention, one that's going to figure out a way to do it a little better, a little more efficient. Those are the things that I really am anxious to see.
Well, Governor, thank you for sitting down with me, and more than anything, thank you for bringing me to the SHOT Show. And the Business Council will continue to be here. We think it's an incredibly important place to be and get those manufacturers, not just manufacturers to come to Wyoming, but get our manufacturers exposure to the rest of the gun world and really get them to be in the game. And I guess along those lines, I just appreciate your dedication to the Second Amendment. I also appreciate your dedication to connecting it to other things in our state, like education, like workforce training, like the really kind of the natural beauty and the natural things that Wyoming offers to long-range shooting and to hunting and all of the outdoor opportunities that we have. It's not just one thing, it's a system of things that work together. And I think understanding that it's hard for some people to see how it all works together, but I've always appreciated how you see the puzzle pieces. And the other thing I'll tell you is, as I've seen the SHOT Show, this is my 7th time, you're 8th at the SHOT Show, walking the floor and spending some time with Wyoming manufacturers and other folks who might want to come. That's not a common thing. You don't see other governors do it, and I'm glad that you do it. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Josh, and it's been great. And over the time that I've been coming here, I feel actually pretty good because, when I first got here, there's maybe one other governor. I think Asa Hutchins was coming. It was the two of us, and now there's more and more governors that are here. That's good for the country, and I got to say, when you have people that wander the floor here, a good friend from Tennessee, he always says, I got to come by the Wyoming booth because Wyoming's a special place. And as you walk around this floor, there are people that just come up and go, God, I love Wyoming. So thanks for being part of this. Thanks for making Wyoming such a big presence here at the SHOT Show. This is a good year, and I think we got more to come.